Hello there, I'm Lucy Jennings, and I'm going to show you how to make this sweet little purse. And you don't even need a loom. That's because we're going to make a book into a loom. Come on, let's go have some fun. Well, let's get started here. The first thing you're going to need is a loom, and believe it or not, this is a loom. You can use your frame loom if you have one, but if you don't have a loom, that's okay. You can turn a book into a loom. This is a nice big book, but a smaller one will be fine too. It just matters what size of a little purse you want to make. My purse is going to be 7 inches wide, so I've measured 7 inches on this piece of paper, and I've taped it down to this book. I took a ruler and made 2 lines so I could keep my selve edges straight as I weave. You don't have to do this, but it's a nice guide. So let me show you the kinds of things you're going to need to make this. Of course, you need your book and a piece of paper, and you need some scissors. I like my nice, great big scissors. You don't need them this big, but they're just my friend. And you're going to need warp thread. The warp thread that I'm using is number 3 crochet cotton, and I like it because it's nice and smooth. There you go. It's nice and smooth and strong. If you pick a thread that's not smooth, that will cause troubles, and if you pick a thread that's not strong, that will cause troubles because it will break easy. You want it nice and smooth because you're going to be beating on it a lot. That is the warp threads. That's the thread that's going to go up and down on your loom. These. Okay, for the thread that goes back and forth, I'm going to use this cotton. It's called Peaches and Cream, and you can get something similar to it at Walmart. And this cotton actually is made by Lily, and it's called Peaches and Cream. It's called a 3-2 cotton, which means it's a bit thicker. And if you'd like to know more about what that means, 3-2, you can go on my blog, and I have a blog post all about the sizes of yarns. Anyway, the next thing you'll need is a tape measure. You always need a tape measure. And a couple of rods. You get these rods at the hardware store, just regular old rods. And these, I believe, are 1/2-inch rods. And I just sanded them off the end. And the rods are just cut the same length as my book. You'll also need fabric strips, a tapestry needle, and a zipper the same width as the purse. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to turn the book over, get our warp thread, and I'm going to pull out a bit of it and make a loop like that. And that loop is going to get a knot in it, sort of like that old bunny ear thing. Pull the bunny ear through. There we go, just like that. And the reason why I do this is because it makes a little knot here, and that little knot there is going to hold the tape down. Lay it down about the middle of the back of your book. Get a little piece of tape. So I'm going to take the end of this ball, and actually I'm going to put it down on the ground because it's going to go all over the place. And so that's where it should be while it's going all over the place. Now this, I'm still here. Yep, here I am. And this is 7 inches wide. And so I am going to wind 4 warp threads per inch. Now, us weavers call how many warps per inch the dent. So 4 warp threads lined up per inch is called 4 dent. So I'm going to start right here, and I am going to make sure it's right on that first line that I made. And then I'm just going to count out how many threads I need and just estimate that I'm getting it pretty much to the inch. Later on, I'll space them out perfectly. So 4 times 7 equals 28. So I'm going to count 28 threads. And I'm going to keep my tension nice and tight. That is what's important. Even tight tension makes a good warp. Okay, got my 28 threads. I'm going to double check that I do. 2, 4, 6, 8. 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28. I did it right. So I'm going to take it to the back, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie the first warp thread that I wound, my first winding, I'm going to tie it to the last one I did. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to trim off this knot. I don't need that anymore. And then I'm going to trim this other piece a little bit longer. And I'm going to take it up here, and I am going to tie it as tightly as I can. This is when, if you have somebody cute with cute little fingers, they can stick their finger there and hold it for you. I used to like to do that for my mom. Anyway, now I'm going to trim this off, and there I have it. It's all wound up, but we're not done yet because they're not evenly spaced. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my tape measure. Actually, a ruler would probably work better, but I told you you needed a tape measure, so I'm not going to tell you to go get a ruler, although it would be way easier. So here we go. Stick this underneath here, some more. Started on the 3-inch line there. And then I'm just going to go through, and I'm going to make sure I've spaced them out carefully. So let me show you up close what I've done. I've laid out the tape measure underneath, and I'm going to go through now and make sure that they're all evenly spaced. See, they're going way over too far. So I'm going to do that now, and I'm sure that you would love to watch me do this for the next 10 minutes. So I won't make you do that. So I'll see you in a few minutes. So we're just going to get our yarn, and we're going to put it through the tapestry needle. What I like to do is loop it through the needle like this, and after I loop it through, it's nice and tight, and it sticks through the hole of the tapestry needle better. Just a little thing I do. And I think I'll do about, I'm going to try 10 rows. And a couple more just to make sure everybody's happy. So going to start just weaving in and out, over and under, all the way across. Okay, so for the weaving, what you do is you put it over a thread and under, over, under. I like to kind of make some little action with my finger holding the other one down, all the way across. Now when we weave this way, we never want to have too wide of warps, because that gets tedious, over, under. But for this little project, it's just fine. That's what the best thing is about little looms. You can just do something real quick and easy and fast. So what I do is I just take it and I scrunch it down. You can also use a fork if you'd like, but to me my fingers are just fine enough. And then if I went under here, my last thread went under, so going back I'll go over. And when you do it, you want to make sure that you're leaving enough on the end to be just tight enough, and but not too tight. And notice how my thread is at an angle. If I had it just straight like this and pulled it like that, it's all going to pull through. No, don't do that. Oh, we don't want to hurt him. Oh, that hurt. So what we want to do is just put it up at an angle. Okay, and as you put it up at the angle, you just kind of lay it into place as you scratch it down. So then back across this way. And once again, I want to be very careful that I pull it just right. These beginning threads are, these beginning rows are quite important, because if they're smaller than the other ones, it kind of causes a problem. Doesn't look as nice. So I think I got that pretty good, and that's laying the foundation for how all of my edges will look. Okay, I've got all of the first part of the weaving done, and it's got my 10 rows, or weavers, we call them picks, 10 rows woven, and I just trimmed off the end here, and I'm letting the two ends just hang down for now. That's how I'm going to weave the whole thing. I'm just going to let my ends hang off to the edges because they're going to get sewn in when we make the purse. I am going to thread the fabric strip through the needle. That's why I don't want the fabric strips too big and bulky. Two reasons. I don't want my woven piece to be real big and bulky, and I want it to fit through this tapestry needle. I'm going to start on the edge over here because these two are kind of already hanging down on this edge. Just to make it a little bit firmer of edges, I'm going to make my thread start in on this side. So it went over on the last row here. So now I'm going to go under, then over, under, all the way across. And if by mistake you go over two or under two, well, just take it out and do it again. That's part of being a weaver. And you will get weaver eyes. That's pretty funny. Weaver eyes that can, you'll sense really quickly when you make those mistakes. So I'm going to let it hang down about a couple of inches there so I can deal with it later on when the purse is all done. I like to kind of let the fabric settle in with the pretty side up. So I kind of, when I'm finished, do have a duller side and a brighter side. I don't like to pack it in too tightly because I want my pattern to show. All those little fine little dots won't show if I pack it in tightly. Now, if you want a very, very, very firm purse, then pack it in real tightly. And the warp threads will be showing a little bit too when you don't pack it in so tightly. So what I'm doing here is, like, as I pull it through, I'm kind of putting my finger on this loop on the end here and pulling it up. See my angle again? Just like before, we're still thinking about that angle. And we're still thinking about the edge here not getting pulled in. We want to make it nice and loose, especially for this purse. If you leave it a little bit looser on the ends, that's just fine. It's all going to be sewn together anyway. So here we go on the way back. And I think I just love weaving because I just love, it's like meditating up and down and up and down. Now I'm going to make sure that I don't have a little twist there, so I'm untwisting it while I'm pulling it through the warp threads. And then I'll push it down again. Not too hard again. And it's looking pretty nice, I think. This is hanging down this way, and I'm going to get my next color, which I believe it was this gingham next, and if it wasn't, it is now. Because I'm not worrying about the details, and it looks like it will look pretty. So we ended on the side, this hanging down here, so I'm going to go ahead and start on that end again. Now you might say, well, what are you doing that for? I thought you said you didn't want too many ends hanging down there. Well, the reason is when I'm all done, I'll show you here. When I'm all done, I'll just keep you in suspense with that sentence there. Scrunch it down. Now, when I'm all done, I am going to sew these together. So to finish it off before I even sew up the side seams on the purse. So I kind of would like to have them right next to each other rather than starting it over here. So that's my reasoning there. And then back. And I'll just keep weaving away here. And I do believe that I'll just weave all the way till I'm finished with the others, all the way to the other end of the weaving, and I'll see you there. We'll put the purse together and we'll see you then. Okay, now I'm back. I've finished the whole weaving from all the way up to the top, and I put in my 10 rows to match my 10 rows of yellow cotton thread down here, cotton yarn. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to cut it off the loom. I'm going to tie off the top here, and I'm going to tie off these at the bottom, and then I'm going to assemble the purse. So let's go. I'm going to turn it over and get my handy dandy scissors and cut right through the middle here, the middle of the warp. Kind of scary cutting the middle, cutting the warps off, but it's got to be done. Okay, and we're all done with Mr. Book. Thank you, Mr. Book. You were very helpful. And now take the rods. Don't need them anymore either. And we have our weaving. This is what I would call the back side of it. So it doesn't really matter right now, but that was what was facing the book. Oops, got my thread over there in the way. So what I'm going to do right now is I am going to just take these threads and tie them. These aren't going to show in this purse. You know, if it was a different kind of a weaving that you're going to hang up, that would matter a lot about how you finish these. But these are going to be inside the purse, underneath the zipper, and they're not even going to show. So I'm just going to tie them in knots. This is the first step, because if anything happens with these rows right here, they start sliding off, it just turns into a messy mess that you have to fix. So it's good to get the ends all secure. Then the step after that will be to trim up these edges here. So if I'll just stop talking and start knotting, I'll get this done. I'll get this done and I'll see you in a few minutes. Okay, so I have the ends all knotted off on each end of the weaving. So now it's easier to handle it. I don't have to worry about the rows coming off on either end. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just sew these pieces into the edge just to make sure that they're really going to stay there. I am also going to sew the edges together, but I just like to do this too to make extra sure. Next is I would like to put some glue on all these little knots. It's not something that's absolutely necessary, but this purse is going to get used a lot, and I think it's good to make these even more secure. You never know, these little knots could come loose even though they'll be sewed down underneath the zipper. So the kind of glue I'm going to use is called Eileen's Super Fabric. I'm just using this because this is what I had. Find a glue. It's best if it's a washable glue because, you know, you won't be washing this like you wash a t-shirt all the time, but you might want to give it a little washing after a while. So find something that can get washed and use that. And then we'll just lay our glue down to dry for a few minutes and it'll be time to make the zipper. When I sew this, I want to make sure that my zipper is going to fold over like this when it's done. See that? I know it can be a little confusing, but if you just lay it down and see what it's going to look like when you're done, you can figure it out. It's going to be like that. I'm going to just lay it right beside it. And you could sew this on the sewing machine, but I'm going to go ahead and do it by hand right now because I thought maybe you don't have a sewing machine. And if you do, great. You might not have a sewing machine that can go through such thickness. And so I thought I'll just show you how to do it by hand. So I want it to be very, very secure. I'm not just going to do a running stitch. What I'm going to do is as I stitch forward, I go back a little bit, go over my stitching. I think it's called the back stitch. I'm sure someone out there knows. And so just keep sewing right along the edge of the zipper. Now I'm about a half an inch down, maybe a couple more stitches, and I'll stop. Right there. I'll stop just like that. Secure the end. Okay, so I'm all ready. I've got it all sewn up on this side. And what I'm going to do now is sew it on the other side. So the first step is to line it up just exactly right. So you know the edges are all even out. This edge with this edge, lining it up. And then what I'm going to do is I am going to place it right where it's going to go and put a pin there. Just to be sure I've got it in place just exactly right. So when I zip it up, it'll be all even. Now I am going to unzip the zipper so it's easier for me to handle what I'm doing. This part could be a little bit tricky, but just take your time and remember, we're having fun. Okay, I'm remembering not to start too much to the end and just start stitching here. So what we're going to do now is we are going to sew up the edges here and here. Okay, so we've got each side all sewn up, the zipper's all sewn in. The next step is to turn it inside out, but before we do that, there's one thing I want you to do. I want you to take these ending, this top of the zipper right up here. We want this to be out of the way, otherwise it's gonna not look so nice on your purse. So just want to tack it down here on each side, which I will do right now. And then tack this side down too. Remember to give it a little leeway there. Don't pull it too tight. Give it a little leeway. We're just doing this so that these guys are out of the way and not sticking out, because that would not look nice and neat. Take our purse and here comes the fun part. Turn it inside out. Make sure you get the corners all pushed through so they're nice and square. And the same on the other side. Use your finger to push it out there. Like that. And now we zip it up and there you go. Just like that. Now I think it'd be nice to press this a little with the iron to get it all shaped. And that's what I'm going to do next. Just take the edges and stretch it out with your hands till it looks good to you. Then a little steam. And so I found this cute little bead in my stash, and I thought it'd be kind of cute to put it on the end of the zipper. So I'm just going to loop it through. And there you have it, all ready to go and ready to put something sweet inside. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.